Hi, Rama. It's week 6, day 4 of our Bible narrative reading plan. Today we're in Genesis chapters 42 and 43. We continue the saga of Joseph in Egypt and this famine that is affecting the entire earth. And we begin in chapter 42 that Jacob finds out that there's grain for sale in Egypt. And he says to his sons, why do you look at one another? Why are you still here? Go to Egypt and buy us grain. And so 10 of Joseph's brothers go to buy grain in Egypt. Jacob, Israel, does not allow Benjamin to go because he's afraid that he won't come back, and he's already so sorrowful and mourning still over the loss of Joseph. And so he doesn't want to lose Benjamin, but he sends his 10 sons and tells them to get on to Egypt and buy grain for them. And we see in verse 6, Joseph was governor over the land. He was the one who sold to all the people of the land. Joseph's brothers come and they bow down before Joseph. Now again, this is the dream that God had given Joseph. It's coming true, but they don't recognize Joseph. They don't know who he is. Joseph recognizes them, and so he questions them, and he finds out what's going on with his father Jacob, how things are with his brother Benjamin, and he blesses them. He treats them very well, but he's also testing them. And so he eventually allows them to go. He gives them the grain that they've asked for. He sends them on their way, but he's testing them the entire way. And so eventually in chapter 43, the famine, because it's still severe and it's running over multiple years, they run out of grain again. And so Jacob says, look guys, it's time for you to go back and get more grain. And Judah says to him, no, we can't do that. If we come back, we have to bring Benjamin with us. And I know you don't want to do that, but that's what you're going to have to do. And Jacob is very dramatic. He is basically saying, why are you guys trying to kill me, and we can't do this? And Judah makes a pledge. He says, look, if I can't bring your son back, then you put that curse upon me. But this is what we've got to do. And so eventually Israel becomes okay with this idea. He says in verse 11, then their father Israel said to them, if you must do this, if it must be so, then do this. And take some of the choice fruits of the land in your bags and carry a present. And he lists the presents. He takes double the money. All these things, they're going to bear gifts, and so that hopefully things will go well for them there. Again, not recognizing that this is Joseph who is there, just knowing that this is a hard man that they're going to have to deal with to get grain from. And Israel says in chapter 43, verse 14, may God Almighty grant you mercy before the man, and may he send back your other brother in Benjamin. Notice again that Simeon is he's still there, being held in prison in Egypt, and Benjamin is mentioned, but the other brother is not. Simeon is not mentioned. And so again, we see the bit of favoritism that Jacob is showing towards his children. But they go on their way, and they get there, and they begin to ask for the grain. And Joseph comes home. In verse 26, Joseph comes into the house. He begins to ask them, how are things with your father? The old man of who you spoke, is he still alive? And they're speaking very reverently. They say, your servant, our father, is well. He's still alive. And they bow down to him, again, a fulfillment of that dream. And Joseph looks at them and he says, is this your youngest brother of whom you spoke of? And he blesses him. He says, God be gracious to you, my son. And then Joseph is overcome with compassion. He has to leave the room because he's just so emotionally overwhelmed at seeing his family, seeing his youngest brother. But eventually they have the feast that Joseph had planned for them. And the chapter ends there at the feast, that they're drinking and they're merry with Joseph, and we're not sure what's going to happen yet with Benjamin, how the story is going to turn out. But again, you see God's blessing. It's the same theme, and I want to keep emphasizing it, that Joseph is being used by God to bless his family and eventually the nations, and that God is sovereign over this entire process. He is good. He can be trusted in Joseph's circumstances and in yours. Here's a summary of today's reading. For more information, go to tunemyheart.org.